Hello and welcome in. My name is Mar. I live in Tokyo and I have been here for almost 9 years. It will be 9 years next week, actually. I came to Japan as a student of Japanese after graduating from university, and then I studied in a vocational school, had another job, and then now I am building, well, I built my own animation studio here in Japan. And often I'm asked how did I do that? How much does this cost? How did you manage and all these things in terms of money and finances? So I decided today to talk about that, like talk about my story. There's two motives I will talk about this. One is that, well, this information is to give a background to people to understand where I come from when they watch other of my videos. So when I give advice or when I talk about things, they will know what's the source, like how can I give this information. This video is to serve as an example of how things work out for me. That may be helpful if you plan something similar so you can actually spot differences. Which means that if you also want to live in Japan or you're here and you're thinking about doing animation, you can get a bit more information on how I did it and try to compare. Like, okay, like this person did this, but I'm in that different situation. So, of course, it works or it doesn't. Things like that. Also, as a disclaimer, I've been here for 9 years. So, the story of how everything started is old. The currencies changed, laws have changed. Some prices and some things have increased or decreased depending on where you come from. Again, currencies may be in your favor now, things like that. When I explain my story, some things that it may seem like I'm complaining about, maybe for you, like, wow, but I live in much worse situations, and you will be like, that's fine, then of course I can do it if she could do it. I mean, so entitled. Or the reverse, maybe explaining something, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go through that. Like that sounds so hard for me. I know this will happen, so I'll just be brave and explain my story, knowing that some people will be like, wow, and some people will be like, of course, like, oh, So I'm being nervous because of that, but again, this is my part, my story. If you have questions of anything I'm saying, please post them on the chat. As a also disclaimer, I will not be sharing exact numbers, but still, I think it will be really helpful. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm a bit nervous. Like nothing that I will share is actually like I consider like super private. Okay, so how did I come to Japan to live? I came to Japan to live in 2014. And before that, some things had to happen. Like I needed to have enough savings and studies and stuffs, right? Like things. So let me talk about that, like the before to Japan experience. Now, I'm from Spain. I am, by the way, I'm 32 now and I'm independent here in Japan. Like I'm in no debt that I know of. So I wanted also to mention that to give context if you just met me through this video. Um, so the story starts, I guess, before coming to Japan. I'm from Spain, from the area of Barcelona, and I went to university in Spain. I had a 4-year bachelor's degree. I have to say, I guess my family would be in the middle low class, if that makes sense. I went to university 4 years, supported by my parents in a way, but also through scholarships. While going to the university, I commuted from my parents' house, my mom's house actually, living together with my parents. I didn't have to pay rent, for example, so I had them supporting that. In terms of the cost of university, for the first year, I didn't pay the tuition because I got a scholarship because I graduated from high school in honors. I don't know how to say that. Then for the second year, we paid for tuition. Now, note please that in Spain, like you have to pay for tuition. It's not like a free university place. It was a public university, so it was like cheaper than private. But also, a university in Spain is, as I understand, or at least at that moment, it was cheaper than in other countries like Japan itself or maybe the US. Like universities are like the tuitions are cheaper. So I didn't pay first year and I paid second, but then third and fourth year, I got a scholarship again. This time based on my high grades plus my family's financial situation, which was considered to be um, like the government thought we needed the support for me to keep studying. So I only paid 1 year of tuition of university in the end. And I had small jobs, but I had more expenses. Let me explain that. With my mother, we tried to open a cosplay shop where we didn't get to have profits, but we surely tried. So I practiced having, so it's like I worked technically, like making the website and modeling and like releasing like cosplay, like talking to people and wearing the cosplays, going to conventions. It was really fun as well. But I tried working in that. I also went to conventions and had a booth, some situations selling some stuff like secondhand or uh, buying, like making commissions, things like that. And so I had like small jobs during university, but mostly I lived through parental support. With trying to save up a lot, I was not the partying type. As I mentioned, we were trying to make more money, like trying to do that. I had a few extracurricular activities like Japanese learning, but most of the Japanese learning was through friends, so I didn't pay for that either. So after university, I graduated like within the 4 years that were supposed to happen. I graduated and I was around 9 months without a job. But because I was trying to keep studying, I tried to improve my Japanese, my English, and my art skills. Those were like extracurricular schools. And again, I live with my mother. So, oh, and wait, I did have I just remember, I was a Japanese teacher at some point, like, because I was in like the third year and then I was teaching someone in complete beginner. So I did have like I had very small jobs. Now, when I came to Japan, I came to become a Japanese student, right? Like, obviously, like the goal was to work and stay in Japan for longer, but I came as a Japanese language student to Tokyo. To do that, I applied for a student visa. For that, like, it had some requirements. Like, for example, they check, like, do you have a university degree? Like, they checked some things. And between the things I checked, they had to check how much money did I have in savings in general, and also check that I would keep having money. In this case, I could not be the guarantor myself because I didn't have like a stable job, right? So I asked if my mother could be the guarantor, but actually she was not enough. She and some other family member had to like reunite, show like tax documentation and lots of things to show that I could come to Japan. I did have savings, but I didn't have enough stable job to show to Japan immigration that I could allow by myself. So I needed the guarantor, and then my family all together sort of like make okay, like yes, we're the guarantor and so on. So that's how I came to Japan. There's more to the story. However, this part of the story on before coming to Japan is very personal and affecting other people. So I summarized some things. Um, the thing I can say is that I didn't expect that I would be able to come to Japan because we were in a very poor situation where we were supposed to have, like legally, we were granted to have more money, but it took a lot of time for the money to arrive. But in the end, it arrived on time, and because we were like very, well, in our point of view, we were like very tight on money, but because we were waiting for that to arrive, it should have arrived like monthly, for example. We didn't, and then when it arrived, that chunk of money plus the savings was enough for me to move to Japan. So I came to Japan as a Japanese student with some savings, as I mentioned, and a guarantor behind me. And I studied Japanese for a year and 9 months. Now, let me tell you about that experience. 3 months after I came to Japan, I got a part time job. So I started like trying to make more money on myself. And from my family, I also received like a bit of money. And plus, so like it was like my part time job plus a bit of money from my family, plus again high grades and like going to school, like a lot, like high attendance rate and high grades and everything. I got another scholarship in my Japanese language school. It's a rare one. I think it's from JASO, JASSO. and that also give like a bit of extra buffer as well to like survive in Japan and keep saving, because we'll go to the next stage. But I kept saving. And now I have to say, for my situation in Japan, I'm also, again, not the party girl and spend a lot, but I did go to Spain around once a year to visit family. So there was like a big international trip every year in that sense. And I mean, I also live there. So eating expenses, traveling a bit around Japan expenses, and arting, a computer, like a monitor, and things like that. Now, give from my living situation, I want to mention some things that I know some people will be like, that's fine. Like, "Ah, please, I live in worse conditions." And for some people will be like, ew. So careful, careful. I lived, I met a wonderful couple of grandparents in Spain, and they're literally now my grandparents. Like, I love them so much, and they've been so helpful. Like, they're Japanese. They had a house in Tokyo, like Tokyo, a bit far away in the area, but Tokyo. And I lived with them for 4 years, like just since I moved to Japan. They allowed me to be in their house with a very low rent, and I also had their support a bit in food and gas and some expense. So I paid, but it was lower than in some cases. Like, I guess it's like if I was in a dormitory, but I sort of live with them. So it was a mix of homestay and living alone, depending on, they were coming and going back to Spain and like to Japan and so on. So I sometimes live alone, sometimes I live with them. Now that how like that allowed me to again keep saving up money for the next stage. But that place was actually not a house. It was meant to be a storage building where they put a bathroom unit and a kitchen. But the house structure was very old. So it was really, really, really cold in the level that can I say this? I guess the degree would be that my Canadian friend would come and be cold. Like, it would be like, this is too much. Like, it was really, really difficult to heat it or to cool it in summer. So I was in a very extreme weather situation, if that makes sense. There were like holes and stuff. I also live with roaches. Um, and in terms of safety, let's say that in Japan, there's a thing, there's earthquakes. So it's very important in Japan that when you move, you look for like newer buildings if possible, because they're stronger against earthquakes. Now, where I lived, had there had been a big earthquake, maybe I wouldn't be here. So I took a risk. Um, so again, I save up, and I was very supported by that family and my own family. But I also lived in a situation that was risky in different ways. I also lived like a student, like very like cheapish meals, buying things secondhand. Also, that house had some furniture, so I used like an old mattress, like things like that. So there was a lot of things where I tried to save up as much as possible, and some of my situations were livable and comfortable. I wouldn't actually complain, but I want to say it because for some people it may, like, if you don't say these things, they just assume that you lived in this baseline standard that, depending on the person, will be higher or lower. But this is a standard living. I was taking the risk in terms of earthquakes. It was very, very hot or very, very cold. Like yeah, very cold, like sleeping with hats. That would be the student, like the student, Japanese student period for me. 1 year and 3 months in ish, I think I already had the Japanese that I needed to start vocational school. But because that was in July and you get the result in like in September, something, when school doesn't start until next April, I had to stay in Japan that long, and I kept as a Japanese language student. Obviously, that was good because I kept improving my Japanese language. Now, vocational school, I applied for an animation course. I checked various options. And there were like 4 year degrees for that here in Japan as well. There were like other courses, more high ranked and less ranked. Like some of them are like famous. Let's say like I think Yoyogi's school is like one of the famous ones and so on. But there was a variety of prices and some elements, and I discovered mine to have like a decent, like the curriculum, the people I met on the open campus, and the prices sort of like fit. So I had to have, again, to apply to the school, they checked again what's your guarantor, how much money do you have, and everything. So it's good that they saved sort of so much during the student, like my Japanese student time, because of the scholarships, again, because of the living conditions, and again, support from family and friends, which I'm so grateful for. Like it wouldn't have happened without them. Like it doesn't matter if I have the top class grades and like I had the part-time job, it was not enough. It would have not been enough. So I'm forever grateful for family and friend support that helped. So thanks to that, I passed the entry application requirements. I kept, well, I was in an animation school, this 2 year course in Tokyo. I kept living at that same place, paying a bit more rent, I think, like paying more bills and rent and so on, but still it was a decent cheap price. I didn't have to get like loans or anything because of the all the scholarship help over the years. Actually, usually when I get scholarships in the university in Spain, it's not that they gave me money; it's more like I didn't have to pay directly at some point. So the scholarship I got in the Japan when I was studying Japanese in Japan, though, it was like a money that an amount that was put into my bank, like I think monthly or every 3 months, something like that. And then I went to the vocational school, and again, I was living in that place, in the same place, and I kept working in the same part time job. And in terms of visa, I expanded my student visa. Basically, I kept being a student. About scholarships, so there were scholarships also for the vocational school, but difficult to get. I think I couldn't apply for the first year or one. It was very hard, or maybe I did or something. For the second year, it was a bit sad because I'm not sure about the numbers right now, but I think there were two, like the scholarship was granted to two students in the whole school that were in like the last year, right? Like in my case, second year. And when I was in first year, they gave that scholarship to like I think two people. But when I entered second year, it was only for one person. And I made all the procedure and everything. And in the end, I know like in the last like interviews and things like that, I was in the last four people or something, or like last three. And I can't remember exact numbers, but I was like super close to getting it, but I didn't. And it was like, okay, if it would have been last year, I would have had most likely got it, but it wasn't the case. I tried, but in the end, I managed. Right, I could manage without it, but I also tried to get the scholarship, and it was not possible. I did get the residential award when I graduated, which is so there were like four awards given to all the graduates of the whole school. I don't know, like was it 400 students, 4 or 800? I think it's 400 students. I got like in the top four. Yes, so that would be it. So thanks to all the family and friend support, the hardworking notes and grades and everything, and the part-time job support as well, because in the part-time job they hired me for one position when I was a Japanese language student, but then things evolved and I became another thing. Basically, I could say like I was from a student coordinator, I became someone working in marketing, which allowed me enough flexibility to work on that part-time job, still the same place, but have like a more flexible schedule, because that made the difference, obviously. And it was a job that also made me happier and helped me learn as well, like to just manage projects that got bigger and bigger. It was not art related in terms of animation, but I learned a lot in that job. I had a lot of nice coworkers, and it was very nice. Okay, when I was about to graduate from the vocational school, like those 2 years course, I had to take a decision. Like, do I want to just enter the animation industry directly, or are there other options, right? Because I needed at that time, I already needed a working visa. The thing is, I had been doing art on my own. I was also like, I had a part-time job at school, and I also had my own webcomic. So yeah, like me being myself. So I had all these things going on, and I decided that uh, instead of entering an animation studio at the moment, it was better for me to actually become a full timer in that part time job that I was having, even if it's not in the animation industry. The reasoning why, I mean, I explain better in other videos, but basically, so basically, as a foreigner, you have to work in a place that will allow you enough stability, and it will look good enough to immigration so you get the visa, right? So I can that if there's so many studios in Japan, or I could be a freelancer and work for various. Actually, the options for me were much shrinked because I needed a higher tier starting salary, a place that would give me work every month, and so on. So I had like a tiny pool of options. And from those options, I was scared that the culture would burn me out. In one way, maybe through overwork. In another way, I was scared that I would work in productions that I don't believe in. Making art is difficult enough that if I have to do art, I want to do it for things I'm passionate about, that I believe in. So I decided the easy route to, okay, I will build my own studio. But first, I need a work visa to stay in Japan. So I applied to work in where I was back then part time to be full time. And in the free time home, like mornings, evenings, weekends, I would keep working on my own project. In that case, it was a webcomic. It's Windy Lining, it's still online. That's how I got a work visa for them, like for a full time job. And I keep doing art on my own, right? So, when I was working full time in Japan, I was in my best time financially because I was finally finances, my savings were going up again, not down, like getting saved, like very sort of things. We were going slightly up, so it was like a good period. I still lived in that same place, and during that time, actually, is the period where with my boyfriend, when my boyfriend became my husband, right? So married. He's actually Japanese, and it was a good season for that because it has some stability. And I think I was a full timer there for 2 years, around 2 years. And also during that time, we decided with my husband to apply for the spouse visa. So from a working visa, I would apply for the spouse visa because in that case, it would allow me to change jobs, or if anything happens, I would have a stronger claim to be in Japan with him, right? Because it's the person, it's your family, and you want to be with your family. Like it's something that I had to renew like year after year, and right now I'm still in Japan with a spouse visa. The reason why I'm sort of allowed to be here, but I still have I still had to show like where will my money come from, and in this case, it's like from myself. Like we also know like as if thanks to that actually, because I'm in a spouse visa, I could become a freelancer a bit more easily because I didn't have to apply for like a business startup thing. I just applied, like I just not applied, but I actually registered myself as a solopreneur. Now, the terminology, there's no exact translation for all this because in Japan, when you're a freelancer, what I call freelancer or solopreneur, it's like a one person business actually. So I do have the Mario Exposito name registered. It's not just my name as a freelancer, it's like I have a shop sort of thing. The name is registered, and then I cannot hire other people working for me as like a stable workers, like a day-to-day workers, but I can outsource to other freelancers, for example. And altogether, we're the studio, the animation studio that we are now. But basically, thanks to that visa changed, I did my transition to only my own studio. So first I was, as I said, I keep doing my comic and the full-time job. And at some point I was like, I really want to get into animation. I really want to take the jump. So I asked to that company if I could become a part-timer. They kindly agreed. They gave me that flexibility. I would become a part-timer, switch some responsibilities with other people in the company, and I became a part-timer there. So I had still a bit of a stable income every month, but I would try to become like do more animation, like for clients. In the beginning, I thought I would spend like maybe, well, I had some savings. So I was like, okay, I can spend maybe some months just building portfolio. But luckily, actually clients and some people interested in becoming a team reached out. So I have to say, those clients, there were no profits. Those first clients, I mean, I got some income, but expenses were higher. And during that time, I want to say, what were the living conditions? So when I married my husband, for some months, we lived in his apartment. And that place was, I think, 20 square meters ish place, like one room, a kitchen like this. Literally, if you see the video right now, it's like this size of a kitchen with like one stove and like one tiny like washing dishes plate and a very tiny bathroom unit. It was very small. It was very small. It was before the pandemic, so it was good. But that's also like a test of love. How do we live together and are well together? But yeah, we lived some months in that tiny place, and then we moved together while I was still like full timer in Tokyo again, Shinjuku, quite central. So it was like very well located for both of our jobs and everything. But I must say that place was a level up from the tiny apartment, but it also came with its own risks. Name it roaches again. Name it the place was really, really old. So if a big earthquake had happened, did I say that right? Well, if a big earthquake would have had happened in a time, I wouldn't be here. The place also had a lot of, it was just very old. It had a lot of mold. We were having a lot of secondhand smoke from the neighbor. In between the walls, we had rats. We actually saw and caught some. I don't want to talk a lot in detail with that, but there were rats. And then were bigger creatures that can eat rats. Or mouse, like mouses, I don't even know. The other creature we suspect was something that it's called, in Japanese, hakubishin. It's quite big. So we were living with creatures. Again, insulation became very bad again, like extreme temperatures. So we lived in a situation that was far from ideal for some people. Well, for others, it's like, okay, it was worse for me. But yeah, we also lived in an area that the big rain. Our apartment would have been flooded up to 50 meters. 50 centimeters. We assume many risks living there, but still it was a level up for us because we were living together. We had enough rooms that then when pandemic actually happened, we could work from home in different rooms. And then there was another room for sleep. So it was a very huge like upgrade for us. It was great for that. The living conditions were fine at the level because then we started. My husband suffers from asthma some seasons, and then with the mold and the huge humidity on the place and everything, it got a bit bad. So we had to move. We had to move at some point. When we moved, I was already working part time. I already had that change where I was working half for animation, half for that other job that provide like some like monthly small income. Right before becoming a full timer, my family support also stopped, by the way. So I became independent. We keep saving up through these situations of like living conditions and some other things. Also traveling to Spain once a year ish. I started my studio, and at some point in between that, we moved. Okay, we moved to the apartment that you see now, which is a huge upgrade. It's a huge upgrade. On the place where there were rats, the door in the bathroom didn't close completely. It was always a bit open. It's a lot of love. So yeah, something. So now we have separated toilet and bathroom. This apartment is also newer. The inside of the apartment has been renewed, but the outside, the structure of the building is still old, newer than the old one, but still quite old. So it's not like super earthquake friendly. No mold situation and poor air condition. We don't have like the secondhand smoke, or like very rarely we would have like a smoke enter from there. There, it's also much quieter, but that's a neighbor thing, right? You can get lucky, you can get unlucky. In this case, we got lucky. It's much quieter. It's safer. The windows, by the way, in the old apartment, apparently twice people tried to enter to steal before we went to live there. We heard that they enter or try to enter to steal stuff, and in this case, we have like much more locks. So it's much safer and better in so many ways, and I love it. Again, I know that many people this will sound stupid for many reasons, but this is the situation. For us, it was a big upgrade. The place is also more expensive, but we believe it was the right choice. And right now, since last September, I have I left that part-time job, so I'm working completely for the animation studio, and and that was a very big scary step, because as you may have seen, like my expenses have increased, and still a freelancer. I don't know if the next paying job will be like when it will be, right? I have to say no to many options. And many times I like, for many reasons, when I get new clients, I try to set a price that will be fair for myself, for my team, and for the client. But I have made mistakes that, for example, I thought we would take, like I tell the client it will take this time, knowing that most likely will be less. So this is the actual cost, and give more time just in case that there's, I don't know, like things that happen with renders. I don't know, just in case, right? And sometimes we ended up spending that time. So for the client, we're on time, but for me, we spent a lot of time, which means the project was more expensive than we anticipated. So I lost profits, or I didn't have much profits. I pay the staff, so I always give the priority to like pay the staff, pay the utilities and everything. But my savings keep going down, and that's scary. And I still need to trust in myself and trust in the team and trust that clients that we match with will help us survive. So to close up, what's the situation now? So right now, in no debt. I'm 32 years old, as I mentioned, married. I'm in Japan with a spouse visa, but working and registered as a freelancer or solopreneur here in Tokyo, in Japan. So basically, I have my studio under this sort of like solopreneur, one person business alias. Like it's how many businesses work in Japan actually here. Like you have a coffee shop, it could actually be, or like a grocery store can be built like that. And doing mostly commissions, like animated commissions, that will be my main source of income. So also mentioning like there's no one dependent on me as well. So I'm independent, and there's no one depending on me. Like we don't have pets, children, and my husband is also independent. So that's also I'm very thankful for. And I want to say thank you to the family that have helped me be here, not just through economical support, but with all the other support that I have received over the years. Friends also have supported me over these years, which has been amazing. I have to be thankful to the job where I was like part-time, then full-time, then part-time. They were very flexible with me, and they offer many opportunities. I grew a lot there, even if it was not in the animation industry. There's things that I learned that are super interesting, and the people that I'm still in touch with. So that was great. As well as, I mean, governments for the like the scholarship help I received. Like yes, I did. I took like the the tests and the grades and met the requirements that sometimes had to do with my economical situation, but sometimes it's just based on my grades and so on. So I have to be thankful for also that support. Like I didn't do it all on my own. Yes, I worked where I could, and I took some risks that sometimes I would not recommend. Exactly like the earthquake. The earthquake thing is tough, because it anytime, right now, something would happen and I'm not very well prepared. Like, I mean, I have a bag of like preparedness of earthquake, what would happen, but the building itself, it doesn't have the best structure. Things we talk about. I took some risks, but overall, um, we managed, and I'm very happy for that. I'm grateful to be independent economically. It gives me a lot of freedom, also a lot of anxiety to be a freelancer, because as I mentioned, the biggest source of income right now depends on clients and matching clients with the projects and the team and everything, and it's very out of my control. And also, I'm investing in this project, doing these live streams, because I enjoy engaging with people on the chat. I want people to learn more about us and our animations. It's just fun, like to talk about like deep animation industry stuff and talk about like more like the just fun, like FAN and FUN things, fun, like things that fans enjoy for fun. So that's a bit scary. So I'm doing basically my savings are going down because I'm investing in staying alive. A few hobbies. I try to like hobbies that are actually usually exercise. Really, like the latest thing I bought was a tall float to be safe when I swim outside. Like I do a few trips and go out with cafes with friends, so I try to stay active and connected with people. And I also invest in the studio, like cameras, microphones, better internet, things like that. So there's a lot of investment, trusting and hoping that I'm doing all I can control and somehow it will work. Once and just reading the chat. So my next steps, I want to do originals. We have very good original stories planned, especially from Windy Lightning, from the comic that I want to do in the future, and that requires our own fundings and other ways. So of course, like I want to keep growing, not always doing commissions from other like third parties or collaborations. So I want to grow to do that, and I also want to not get into debt or to like even rely on others again. Like before, I had some support, and I also try to do my own thing. I don't want to get in that point. I want to be able to be independent and ideally actually support others, like my mother in the future if necessary, things like that. Like that's goals, right? Do that through making a work that's work like people enjoy watching and they watch animations and they it helps them grow and have fun and think about matters of life. And okay, I would get in the philosophical stage now, but yeah, so I want to keep doing this animation studio, keep growing it in Japan and internationally, working with people that's a joy to work with because they're super talented and help these others. I want to also have fun with friends and family at some point and travel and so on. Okay, so thank you very much for watching and listening to this story. I hope it brought you I hope it was interesting for you to listen about the things that happened to me in the past. Again, if you want to take this as an example for yourself, take into an account that all stories are very individual and different. Many things I mentioned and even prices I mentioned are from years ago. So I came to Japan like almost 9 years ago, and everyone's different. But if it was useful, I'll be very happy if this served you to understand me better when you watch other videos. That's also great. And if not, at least maybe it was entertaining. So, without further ado, thank you. Thank my family. Thank my friends. Thank the scholarship systems, and my past job, and everyone who has supported me. Thank you very much, and see you soon.